Hey there, and welcome to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes, sitting here with David Leavitt, president and founder of the Refresh Computer Superstore. You can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. Or if you have any other comments during the show, we'd love to hear them. Use that open mic feature inside the WDBO app. You can also check out the website over at refreshcomputers.net or stop at the Refresh Computer Superstore in Longwood at 820 East State Road 434, just 3.5 miles east of I-4 in Longwood. Store hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And if you're listening to the show here on Saturday, it means you still have time to stop by. They'll be open until 7 p.m. today. And now, to the man himself, the world traveler, David Leavitt.
Thanks, Greg, and thanks, everybody, for listening to Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. It's great, actually, to be back. I have been gone for an entire month, traversing the continent of South America. So it was something else, I will tell you. And, today's topic is going to be a lot about, not my travels. So, that's okay. Don't worry about that. I'm not going to be talking so much about that, except maybe, some of the things that made my travels easier. Tech-wise.
I know one of the big things before you headed out that we talked about was using the Starlink system. And before we got on the air today, you were talking a little bit about how integral that was to you having a great trip.
It was a necessity almost. Yep. I mean, it was so great having that Starlink Mini. We rented a Starlink Mini, so basically we drove 3,000 miles, over 3,000 miles, about 3,200 miles in South America. And mostly through Argentina and Chile. The Carretera Austral, like it's hard to get that word out, that phrase out. Carretera Austral is the top one or two drives in the world to drive. So road trips, I guess, is a better term. And so it's been a dream of mine for many years. I put that dream in motion and did it, and it was awesome. It was a crazy, scary drive.
Oh, I can only imagine.
It's mostly gravel roads,
okay.
And hardly any pavement at all, and high cliffs, and it's kind of scary. Places where only one car can fit, but it's a 2-lane. It's not 2 lanes. There's no lanes, but cars can be coming the other way around the corner at any minute. So you got to be always ready to pull over and let somebody pass in a little space that might be available for them to pass and that kind of thing. It was kind of cool. But what really made the trip great, Greg, was the fact that I took the decision to rent a Starlink Mini for that whole trip. And, there were times where I'm using Google Maps. I had my whole trip planned every day. I knew exactly. I actually had a Google Maps link in my calendar so I can just click on it. And for that day, and I knew where I was going.
Knew exactly what stops to make.
Exactly. So I had all that pre-planned. It took me weeks to get that set up, and so I did that. But my wife Isabel and I, we're travelers, we're wanderers, we're explorers. We love seeing things that. So when we see something off the side, if there was like some kind of turn off that looked like it went to something interesting, we would make that turn off.
Oh yeah, you have to, right? You're not going to do this again, probably,
exactly.
Right? So,
and we'll probably never be in that area again. So we would go down into some places, and then as I was coming back to the main road, if you want to call it a main road, to continue. I look at my Google Maps and it says redirecting, and my directions are gone now because I went off as long as I stayed on the path, because even if you don't have internet, the GPS satellites will keep guiding you as long as you already have your route in Google Maps on your phone. So that's what I discovered, and so that worked out great, and unless we went off the route, and then if we got off the route, it couldn't reroute us back because it didn't know. So what I'd have to do, I'd have to stop somewhere, get the Starlink Mini out because you can't use it while you're driving, and stop and put the satellite dish up on top of the roof of the little camper van that we rented, and wait for it to power on, get internet, and then I can get my Google Maps again, get back on the road. So we had to do that several times.
That's interesting. I didn't know that you couldn't leave it set up. So I wonder when that would be the next step for them on those.
Well, I mean, there's different versions. There's a Starlink Mini, and that has that's not made for in motion, although it kind of works in motion too, as long as you can have it pointed to a satellite.
Right.
But the problem with South America is the further you go south. I mean, we literally drove to the end of the world.
Yeah.
And actually there's a sign there, end of the world. Technically, it's the end of the road, right? And so you can't drive any further south. That's where we went, almost to Antarctica. So, out there, the satellites are fewer and far in between.
Right.
There's not that many.
As you get away from that equatorial area, yeah.
So we always had to have the mini dish. It's about a foot square, maybe a little bit wider than that, in the mini dish. And so always had to have it pointed north. If it was pointing south, it wasn't getting anything. No satellites down there over Antarctica, evidently. Maybe some, but not much. And so, it was really helpful getting us where we needed to go. And I'm so happy I took the decision to rent. It was like $10 a day.
Yeah, I remember that you saying that it was a really affordable, it was like a surprising price.
Surprisingly, unbelievably cheap to rent that from the company I rented the little RV from. I don't want to say it's an RV. We had to actually crawl in it to go to bed. So we camped out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it was just awesome all, throughout that whole trip. And so here, I started the show saying I wasn't going to talk about my trip, and I just talked a whole bunch about my trip. But anyhow.
Listen, you haven't been here for a month. We had to hear about the trip. We're really excited to have you back, though, and we're really excited to kind of dive into some of these great tech topics that me and Adam have done an okay job, I think, of covering here over the last month.
You've done a great job. I listened to the shows, and you guys are great. I really appreciate what you guys did while I was gone.
We appreciate the compliments. But to have David back and be able to hear his thoughts on some of these, I think is something that we're excited to hear. So what are we snapping the program off with here tech-wise today?
Well, we're gonna stay with Elon and what he's been doing lately, and it's just amazing. So let's talk about Starlink tech-wise, right? Forget my trip for a minute. How many Starlink satellites are out there right now? Any idea?
I had the number from the end of the year. It was over 200,000, I believe.
10,000.
It's now up to 10,000.
Okay. Just 10,000.
I thought it was 200,000.
No.
Maybe maybe that's the first grouping of what they want to get up there. Maybe I have my
possibly, but yeah, there's like 10,000 Starlink satellites up there right now, close to it. But just on January 30th, I don't know if you guys reported this or not because I've been away from the news a lot. On January 30th,
hard to pick up WDBO down in South America.
That's right. SpaceX announced that or not they announced, they filed papers with the Federal Communications Commission to have 1 million satellites. Right? Did you guys talk about that?
We did.
Geez, 1 million satellites.
That's a huge number to continue to develop towards. There are still a lot people already complain about that they feel like Elon is kind of quote unquote polluting space with the number of satellites.
Yeah.
To jump that number to 1 million, a lot of people really perked their ears up at that one.
And so to get to the million, I mean, and the reason for the million is, and they're not a million Starlink satellites. There are 1 million satellites, but not all Starlink for internet. They're kind of related because he wants to put a network of data centers in space. And a lot of these satellites would be for that goal, is to get data centers in space.
We talked a little bit about that, me and Adam, when it was discussing just how exactly that works in the vacuum of space. So these data centers, the reason that there's so many concerns with them down here, because they eat up so much energy, and so much of it is just the heat that they push off.
That's right.
But then moving him into the vacuum of space, you think no heat, a lot cooler, but
it's harder to cool things in space.
It's harder to cooler things at the same time. So it's a catch-22. It seems like that I'm sure Elon is working on plans to figure that out, right?
But you're closer to a huge energy source,
right?
The sun, right? And so that's going to be powering a lot of these satellites, which it powers the Starlink satellites that are out there now, right? Is the sun and solar. So, but I guess the most recent breaking news, and you guys have probably talked about this already, right? Or maybe you haven't. Was on February 2nd, Elon announcing that SpaceX is acquiring his AI company, XAI, and that's a huge deal. If you can't, I want to try to explain why it's such a huge deal in layman terms, if I can, and what it means for them to do something like that and combine these two companies together. I mean, the cost or the value alone is like $1.25 trillion, making it the most valuable private company on earth. But that's not why it's amazing. So what is xAI? Well, that's Elon Musk's AI company that he started just a few years ago. And, I've heard people say, oh, but what about Grok? Isn't that his AI company? It's like, no, well, Grok is actually the star baseball player, right?
Right. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. and number one on the depth chart. Yeah.
And AI is the team owner or the team. And so AI is what powers Grok, or xAI is what it helps power Grok. And because xAI is much bigger than what Grok is. Grok is like I said, just the star player, right?
Right.
It's
the product.
It's the interface. It's what you see.
Yeah.
So, but xAI is huge, and it's pushing, all kinds of innovations, and so why merge that with SpaceX is the question. And if you were listening earlier on, you might have an idea of why that is. And that is because, Elon wants to put 1 million satellites out in space, and he wants a lot of those satellites to be orbiting data centers as opposed to satellites that transmit, that allows you to connect to the internet, right? So they're the data centers that will drive the other satellites that allow you to get on the internet.
They'll all be next door neighbors up there.
That's right. And so it's just an awesome thing. So it kind of makes sense in that regard that the two companies would be one.
Yeah, no, and I think it's a big part of, as they continue into what they want to become a public, they're going to be offering their public IPOs here sometime this year projected. So that'll be interesting to watch. And there's rumors that they're going to try and snap Tesla all into this same package.
That's right.
So it's definitely something to keep watching. Again, we talk about xAI being kind of the workings and the mind behind a lot of these things, Tesla included, where they're working on a lot of these new programs for the autonomous driving and all these other products going into the new Tesla products.
Well, and the other thing is with all the, we talked about the chip shortage, right? It's hard to buy RAM today, and affordable RAM. You can't. I mean, it's if you need a memory upgrades for your desktop computer, it's I don't want to say you can forget about it, but it's getting close to that point because there's still a huge shortage. And so by combining these two companies, xAI spending $1 billion a month just on chips, in their data centers. And so that is obviously a huge chunk of money. And for them to be able to keep up with that, so, it's making more and more sense that they merge something like xAI with SpaceX. SpaceX is hugely profitable company, right? So
a lot of great government contracts that they have going on right now to bring in that dough. It'll be interesting to see. I wonder if there's any moving forward, the sustainability of this chip price that we're talking about and how it's going to affect a company like xAI, just how long they can sustain paying these kinds of prices for something on it. I mean, they've kind of driven the reason for these pricing, but also how do they adjust in the marketplace?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. And again, I think these mergers are, when you think of it in that context, it kind of makes sense why the mergers are happening, because you kind of wonder with the bleeding money that xAI is costing, right? It's just they're way not profitable by billions, right? They're bleeding money, and to be able to merge that with a company that's making massive profits together, kind of hope that they don't kind of go down together.
Right. Yeah, that's the other concern with it. For sure, absolutely. And we'll continue our talk a little bit on some of these mergers that we're monitoring actively, and we continue to welcome Dave back. You've been listening to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there, and welcome back to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with David Leavitt, president and founder of Refresh Computer Superstore. And you can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. Or if you have any other comments during the show, go and leave an open mic using that WDBO app. And now, back to David.
All right, thanks, Greg, and thanks, everybody, for listening to Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. It sure is great to be back after being out for over a month.
Yeah.
Over a month. 4 weeks I missed doing the radio show, so nice to be back with you folks, and I really appreciate you listening in. And, you know, we've been talking a lot about SpaceX and Starlink and, you know, Elon Musk, and, you know, which he seems to be a topic of our show, you know, often. And if you missed any of what we talked about, which was really, really good stuff, you can go to refreshcomputers.net, click on that podcast link there at the top of the page. You can hear the show in its entirety in podcast form. It's about 40 minutes long because it doesn't have any commercials whatsoever. And so it's, Greg, that's turned into quite a popular podcast version of the radio show. And so I'm really proud to have it out there. We've been out there now. This is deep into our third year of doing the podcast version of the show. So happy to have that out there. So we were talking about Elon, and we were talking during the break, you brought up, hey, you know, PayPal, and it's linked to X.
Right. It's such a funny link. So I was reading through this Newsweek article where they talk about kind of the origins of Elon and where his kind of money came from and where he started to develop into this. And it said that when he created PayPal, it really actually for him started as X.com.
That's
and
crazy,
a competitor
huh?
was PayPal, and then they ended up merging together. But yeah, no, he's had this obsession with X for a very long time. So.
And, you know, I always thought, you know, when I first saw X.com, when he did that with Twitter, I thought, okay, well, that makes sense because everybody wants to click on the X. You know, he'll close that. Oh, no, I didn't close something. I opened it.
Right.
I don't know.
So yeah, it's been a part of his ethos, if you will, for a very long time. So he actually, and according to this, back in 2002, where he really got that big influx of cash was the sale of PayPal to eBay, $1.5 billion.
Yeah,
back in 2002.
That was the beginning of eBay's downfall. I mean, they're still relevant, but not much.
Right.
You know, you think about eBay, though. Speaking of eBay, they were the world's leading online retailer.
They were there.
They they were innovators. Of course, it was, you know, auction format, and you know they turned it into a buy it now format also, but way before Amazon, way before. Think of what, you know, they had the foresight of Jeff Bezos leading that, what they could have been.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But good for Elon. That gave him a lot of money to do other things like, you know, SpaceX and Tesla and stuff like that. So and Twitter, and let's do a little bit of timeline here. So it was just 4 years ago, 2022, that Elon bought Twitter, right, and changed it to X.com. And that was a big surprise to a lot of people. And of course, Elon said, you know, the reason he did it was to push free speech because these social media platforms were not pushing free speech at all. And I tend to agree with him on that. And so it was a huge thing that he did when he bought X because he changed the world, because whether you like social media or not, it's here to stay. It's a huge impact on society, obviously, and it's how most people get their news. So, you know, buying X was a huge deal, and he helped change the landscape there for the better. And so in March 25, XAI acquired X. Of course, XAI is owned by Elon also, so, you know, he acquired himself. I don't know.
Elon acquired the services of Elon. Yes.
That's right. And an all-stock deal, right? So just January of this year, you know, Tesla put $2 billion into XAI. So, again, Elon's company helping Elon's company to boost shared AI, you know, so for Tesla's robots and self-driving, right? And so what really surprised me, too, in that time frame was when he announced the Model S and the other Model...
And the Model X.
Stopping production.
Going away to make room for more robots.
To build robots. You're like, really? What?
And then now
are we ready for this?
Right.
Elon thinks we are.
Are we ready for that next step? And then, as you mentioned earlier in the show, that purchase of SpaceX acquiring now XAI. So it's going to be a continued watch as Elon makes big moves in the marketplace. And again, we're watching ever so patiently for that major public IPO offering. We'll see what comes out of all of that. We'll have more for you here on Tech Talk. You've been listening on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there, and welcome to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with David Leavitt, president and founder of Refresh Computer Superstore. You can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200, or you can leave an open mic using that open mic feature inside the WDBO app. Also, check out their website over at refreshcomputers.net, or stop at the Refresh Computer Superstore in Longwood at 820 East State Road 434, just 3.5 miles east of I-4 in Longwood. Store hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., and if you're listening to the show here on Saturday, it means you still have time to stop by. They'll be open until 7 p.m. today. Now, for the man himself, David Leavitt.
All right, thanks, Greg, and thanks, everybody, for listening to Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. We've been talking a lot about the moves that Elon Musk is making, and just very recent moves with, filing FCC petition to put 1 million satellites in orbit. He has 10,000 in orbit right now, and so he wants to get to 1 million. And the big reason behind that is to have satellite data centers. Not necessarily all would be like Starlink satellites, or that would be beaming stuff down to Earth, but the data centers that would drive the Starlink satellites as well up there in space, and for all kinds of reasons why it would be a good idea to do that. And if you missed any of that, you can listen to this show in its entirety by going to refreshcomputers.net and click on that podcast link, and you can hear this whole thing. So, what's the big vision that Elon has? And he wants data centers in orbit. I mean, that's the big deal right now.
Like we said, 1 million additional satellites now. Question for you: have you been outside and been looking up and happened to have seen the constellation go by, the Starlink constellation set up?
I have been out. If you go out and away from a city, right, away from all the lights, and you're out and late at night, and you can look up in the sky, you just see one satellite after the other.
They have a tracker, and you can see them. They follow each other in like a belt. And I was outside one night, and we saw the whole, the belt of them.
Did you?
Fly by.
Wow.
And it was impressive to actually think that we have something like that in space.
It's crazy. Isn't it something?
It's intimidating and scary and very cool all at the same time.
I want to say, years ago, before Starlink satellites, I was at one of my aunt and uncle's house. They live up in the north part of Florida, out in the middle of nowhere. They basically own a 50-acre plot, and they paid a surveyor to find the exact middle, and that's where they built their house. Crazy.
Far away from everything as possibly.
Yeah, that's just the way they are. And so anyway, we spent the night with them one night. This is years ago. I can't remember how many years ago now, but 15, 20 years ago. And we were out at night, and he said, "I want you to look up at the sky, my uncle, and you can see the meteors go by every once in a while." So I looked up, and oh, there's one. And they, yeah. He goes, "You know what? But that's not a meteor. That's a satellite." But there's like one.
Right. That's
every once in a while. That's
dark to be able to see all that. That's crazy.
But today, I would imagine, I haven't been up there in years. I would imagine if you looked up
they probably
there
see
now,
a lot of them.
You just see a whole bunch of them. I mean, all the time, right?
That's like a great place to watch the Artemis launch from, and to be able to kind of follow the track up as it continues.
Probably. So anyhow, we'll get into a couple of other topics here soon. I promise. A couple of things that you probably need to be aware of, by the way. Some kind of Amazon shopping scam going on right now that we want to talk a little bit about. So you have to be careful if you shop on Amazon. Who doesn't these days? But anyhow, to wrap up what's going on with Elon, big risks, right, for Elon, right? He's basically merging all his companies,
right,
into a global superpower, And some people don't feel very comfortable about that, having one person with all this power, because look at all the stuff that he's doing with it.
Yeah, no, and you made mention before of how important a social media site like X has become for us to get our news and things like that. And you mentioned how he has been very open about making it an open platform and preserving the freedom of speech on that platform. But at the same time, it is his platform.
That's
so
right.
At any time, that switch can change at his discretion, if you will. I don't know if he will or not,
And it's like when he's made the announcement about robots, shutting down the Tesla plans to build robots. I'm like, are you sure we're ready for that already?
Right.
I don't know.
Ready for robots to be in your home doing all of your chores or even taking over certain jobs that they could be doing. Yeah.
If it was anybody else other than Elon, I would oh, that's crazy, but I don't know.
Pie in the sky for everybody else, but Elon's literally the pie in the sky. So
yeah, he's been right technology wise for a long time.
All the way back to PayPal, right?
All the way back to PayPal, like what we were talking about earlier. So anyhow, let's go to another topic here. Do you shop on Amazon?
I do. We're a very much a power user of Amazon, if you will.
So there's this little sneaky credit card scam going on for people shopping on Amazon, because they are exploiting actually a little loophole on Amazon, which I'm sure Amazon's probably closing up right now, with using their shop with points feature.
Oh.
So if you shop with points, you have to be careful, because it's shopping with points in exchange for hundreds of dollars in annual fees. Premium credit cards offer bunch of points, right? So that you can use while you're shopping on Amazon. And there's a way on Amazon for you to use your points from your credit card that you use on Amazon.
I do have a card like that, so yeah. I do utilize some points sometimes for purchases.
Yeah, and as appealing as that is, what's really crazy about this is, ever since I've seen that on Amazon, I've turned that off. And I don't allow points to be used on my Amazon, because Amazon turns it on by default, which is terrible, by the way. They should not do that, especially if every once in a while for my business, we'll have to order. We have a business account also.
Oh yeah, and
we have to order stuff. I want my business credit card points to go towards cash that I can reinvest in my business, not to buy stuff on Amazon.
Right.
And so employees of mine have the ability to order stuff on Amazon as they need stuff. Sometimes you need stuff in the store. Like if I'm not there and they need,
packing tape,
right? Toilet paper, paper towel, whatever. They can go on Amazon. They have the ability and the approval from me to just go get what you need. And every once in a while, an employee will use my points. Well, that presents two problems. One is it's harder to turn that into a business expense because they use points.
Right.
And the other is I want the points to go into a special account. I have a special account for all my point money from my credit cards that goes into it. And I use that for other things. A lot of that for the employees. And so, but if they use it up shopping, then that's another problem. So,
right.
And now another reason not to use that is the scam going on that some folks have figured out how to go in there. And if you're using the shop with points option, it's basically stealing your points. That they can steal your points while they're shopping, and and then you're left kind of high and dry.
Right.
So you got to be careful with that. My suggestion is, if it's possible, just turn off that feature. But again, the problem is every once in a while, Greg, I'll see that Amazon had turned it on again.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I asked my employee, "Hey, did anybody turn on my points?" for the store. And it's like, no, not me.
Yeah.
And so it just seems to be turned on. So anyway, I have to go in and turn it off every once in a while. So that's something that you need to watch out for.
I only use those points for like frivolous purchases. Like if I'm looking at Amazon and I'm like, oh, I really don't need this, but I have points that cover it. So I look at it as like side cash, but you're saying that there's people out there that are actually able to access your account and they're swiping those points more from away from the value of something that you purchased.
Yes.
Wow.
So, and I'm not sure how that loophole works. I just know it's there, and it's been reported by PC Magazine.
Interesting.
And so that's something to watch out for. Another thing to watch out for: to use Notepad
Sparingly.
on your Microsoft, on your on your computer. Chinese hackers have hit Notepad, right? Yeah. And they use it to give you a malicious update.
I was going to say, I know a lot of coders use Notepad often for a lot of different things. So interesting to see that they're finding I'm assuming that they're probably kind of hijacking your computer and then utilizing your Notepad to
do that. And then you can, if they have access to your Notepad, then they have access to your Microsoft account, pretty much, right? Because it's all powered by Microsoft, by Windows. So anyhow, speaking of Microsoft and Bill Gates, should we even talk about that?
Oh, my goodness. It's not necessarily tech news, but it certainly is news, isn't it?
But it just popped in my mind. And it was like, whoa.
We knew that he was mentioned previously.
Yes.
And if you're a little behind on the update, after the recent release of the Epstein files, a lot of documents implicating Bill Gates, the founder and former CEO of Microsoft, in a lot of these sex crimes that have been investigated via a lot of the Justice Department and the FBI and all of these different things. Well, his wife making some very interesting statements.
Yes,
and
that's what kind of confirmed for me, that hey, and actually the divorce took place, around this time period. Right. So, obviously she found out about it back then, and the comments she's making now is just very telling, is how disappointed, she is and him.
It brought up some rough memories of a dark time in her marriage.
That's
with
right.
him. So that was a very, very telling statement. So I know that recently the congressional leaders have called upon Bill Gates now to come and testify in front of them for this further investigation. So,
and the more you read into this, the more you think some of these conspiracy theorists were right.
Right.
I mean, it's like they're proving one thing after another, and I never totally bought in on that. I didn't. I'll admit that. I'm a firm believer, Greg, and I'm only going to believe what I see with my own two eyes and hear with my own two ears. Yep. That's it. I will not believe anything else I see online, no matter how much it looks real.
Especially now.
I've been in that mode for quite some time, and I will make my own opinion and oftentimes just keep it to myself and sometimes not. But still, this is definitely believable. Yeah. In what's going on and just how nasty of a person Epstein was. I mean, reading, I've read a lot of this stuff. I mean, these files that were released, and even that you have to kind of be careful. Is it true or is it not true?
What's people sprinkling in stuff to put people off of certain trails or to put people on a trail that doesn't exist? Right.
Or you can go right to the DOJ website and read that. I mean, that's the place to read. That's where I read some stuff, and that's where you need to go. not what somebody else said. They said, right? Because that's always skewed, almost always. And so, but some of the stuff I read there, how evil Epstein was against, I don't want to get into religion, but against non-Jews. Yep. Right? I mean, he's just outright mean and nasty. And it's sort of like, oh man, just, I don't want to get into it. I'm not going to go there. But just what an evil person he is, was some people say still is.
Right. Yeah. You definitely see a lot of those. That's for sure.
I mean, is this another conspiracy going on? Is he really dead?
Right.
Because come on, I'm the oldest nerd I know. There ain't no way, a prison's cameras are going to go out just for the few hours,
just for that specific time frame. It's very listen.
Come on, they want us to believe that, Greg. I don't. That's one thing I'm going to tell you. Though that I do not believe that.
It's very suspicious.
Crazy. No way. And and so some of the conspiracy theorists are actually talking about, is he even dead?
This Tech Talk episode has taken a very interesting
It
turn.
did.
We're going to try and get back on the rails here coming up after the break, but hopefully we've satisfied your conspiracy theory nut here for a little bit. But we'll come back here in just a little bit with some more Tech Talk with you. You've been listening on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there, and welcome back to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with David Leavitt, president and founder of Refresh Computer Superstore. And you can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. You can also check out their website over at refreshcomputers.net. And now, back to David.
All right. Thanks, Greg. And thanks, everybody, for listening to Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. This has definitely been an interesting show today. We've talked about everything from, Elon and all his companies merging, a million satellites in orbit, some scamming going on. If you're an Amazon shopper, you got to kind of watch out. My suggestion is if you use credit card points to pay for stuff on Amazon, stop doing that.
Protect those points. I'm looking into it now.
Yep. And, check your points because somebody else might be using them, might have used them. And so that's kind of going on right now, and I'm sure Amazon's addressing that. It's probably not an issue today, but it was just very recently. So watch out for that. And if you missed any of the show, we even talked about Epstein for a little while there towards the end of the last. And Greg, you saved me at the end. Thank you. Kind of pulled me out of that. And I appreciate that very much. Let's get back to tech stuff. And so you can listen to this show in its entirety by going to refreshcomputers.net and clicking on that podcast link at the top of the page. And, you'll get to hear a little bit about, the travels I did all through South America for a whole month. And that wasn't an easy trip. I want to tell you, it was an adventure because, I like to think of all my trips like that as adventures, as opposed to a vacation.
Right.
Difference there. And because it wasn't easy, it was hard, Greg, I actually had one time where this is the first time in my life somebody told me I was too old to do something.
Uh-oh.
And it hurt. I'll admit, it hurt. I was flabbergasted. We were in a place called Calafate, Chile, and there is a glacier there called the Perito Moreno. And it's like the only glacier that they allow you to walk on. And you have to actually go with this tour group or company to do it. They're the only company that's even allowed to do it. It's only one. And so my wife and I were there signing up to go on the next one, which was, the next day. And, you have to show your passports. You have to do all this stuff, when you sign up for these things. And the lady was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. We can't let you go. Your wife can go, but you can't go because you're too old."
What? How does that work?
2 years ago, my wife and I spent 5 days, and we hiked the entire Inca Trail, which is like one of the toughest hikes there is. If you're not climbing, Mount Everest or something, which we can't do. We know that. But the Inca Trail is a very tough 5-day hike, ups and downs like crazy, high altitude, 12,000 feet, so it's hard to breathe. We did that 2 years ago, and I can't climb on top of glacier.
I wonder how they've come up across that arbitrary number of nope, you've reached this age, you can't do it anymore.
That's right. And so I said, "Look, I'm not that old. I'm 3 years younger." And they, "Oh, no, it's right here on your passport." And they'll take a picture of your passport instead of your actual passport. They'll use that.
Uh-oh.
I had thoughts, but I decided, nah. That would be illegal. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I don't want to get in too much trouble, especially down in South America.
There's a thing called Photoshop. I don't think that would work on your passport. Well, it would work, but, I'd probably go to prison for something like that. I'm not that desperate to do that. But I will say that it affected me because it affected me in a bad way because I felt really bad about it, but it inspired me also to go out and do more stuff. sooner, quicker, because, time's running out for me. And I just want to do that. So anyhow, so we got off on another non-tech tangent here. Sorry, folks, but I hope you're enjoying listening to the show. Come by the Superstore there in Longwood. It's 820 East State Road 434. We're open Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. The free tech support hotline, 407-478-8200. You can't forget that. You can use it for anything, whether you shop with me before or not. If you got a tech question, give us a call, 407-478-8200. This is David Leavitt with Refresh Computer signing off for this week. We'll be talking to you again next week.